Sí, España. Estén hablando. No diciendo.
Vale, hacemos una. Hello, good afternoon to everybody, and welcome to this press conference. A lot of media attending here in Madrid. Much more, I know they are also attending this press conference via live streaming. Today was for the European leagues and European football in general an historical day. A day during which leagues and clubs decided to join forces to protect the future of their game. We are honored to say that today we had here 244 clubs coming for 38 countries in representation of 41 professional football leagues in Europe, with participants going more than 300. So that it was definitely a success, but for this I pass the floor to the president of the European leagues, Lars Christer Olsson, that he will brief you about the outcome of today's meeting, of course followed by some comments from the president of the Austrian League, and we are grateful to this, Javier Tebas, president of La Liga. So please, dear president, thank you.
Thank you, Alberto. Oh, I should push this one, or? No, it works.
No, let's go.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Alberto. Yes, we have had actually 2 interesting days, because we started with a dinner yesterday evening, where I think I should say that the discussion already started among the participants in the dinner. So they were well prepared for the meeting we have had today. And as Alberto said, a special thanks to La Liga, because we would not have been able to organize this kind of meeting without their expertise and their help. The outcome is, of course, what is most interesting. And I think we had a very active meeting. A lot of clubs made their positions very clear, also including clubs and representatives from ECA, because Andrea Angeli was here representing his club, of course, Juventus. And I think we should say that the outcome of this meeting was that we were strengthened in our ideas that we are representing almost 1,000 clubs in Europe. And those clubs have given a great response at this meeting. And I'm also happy to say that we are sharing the same views when it comes to the future of European club competitions. We have, everybody has said, we from the European leagues and also our member clubs, that we have to be properly included in the decision-making procedure for the future of European competitions. And we think that should be the case for all stakeholders. But the processes have to change from information to real negotiations, because we think that we are now in a critical position when it comes to the development of European club football. We really have to negotiate and find solutions. For example, between how we organize the international competitions and how we organize the domestic competitions. Our view is very clear. The domestic competitions have to be the basis for international competitions. You should qualify to the international UEFA competitions via the domestic leagues. If you don't do that, it is impossible to keep the interest among the fans. We are sure that the fans are supporting our ideas, because the domestic competitions are the backbone of the interest of the fans, and also for the clubs in each individual country, I should say. So we are not against change, but we have significant concerns if that change should be based on the concept which is released by the president of ECA, Andrea Angel, in his letter to the clubs, because we have made an analysis of such a concept. It's not rocket science to create a competition, so there are not too many alternatives. So if you are going to play more European matches, you have to have more dates. And for example, when it comes to the calendar, the weekends have always been reserved for the domestic competitions and should continue to be so. And if you're going to have a promotion and relegation system in a European competition, it means that you have to have a certain number of clubs participating in these different divisions. And it means that those clubs are protected from the qualification from the domestic leagues. So technically that doesn't work. The vast majority of our clubs believe that it should be the sporting merits which should decide which teams should play in the international competitions. That means that the final of the season in all our domestic leagues should decide which teams should qualify for the international competitions. And we are welcoming the initiative from UEFA to start a process on involving more stakeholders in a better way for the decisions for the future of the club competitions. It has to happen in practice. And we are tomorrow, as you know, having a meeting between our board and the executive committee of UEFA. And I hope that we will get a presentation there on the ideas UEFA has so far about how they think that the development of the competitions should look like. I think I can say with a lot of confidence that the vast majority of the clubs at this meeting today were saying they are not in favor of a development which is outlined by the ECA president in his letter to the clubs. They don't want to see promotion and relegation. They don't want to see a pyramidal system. They don't want to see a closed league in Europe. And they will definitely not want to see a closed league within the umbrella of UEFA. So I hope my colleagues are agreeing with me that this is a conclusion from today's discussions and today's meeting. And we are very positive, and we were also asked by our clubs, we will organize more meetings like these in the future. The next one will be in early October. And we have our General Assembly next time in the middle of October in London. So there will be new proposals to come from the European leagues and new discussions in a similar setup as we have had here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. And now I welcome President of La Liga, Javier Tebas. Javier.
Buenas tardes.
Good afternoon. I just want to say that the European leagues have allowed us to host this meeting, which I think is going to be the beginning of a new era in the new European football. I think our meeting has been important for the clubs, and what we're going to have to do is to stop the way that the European sports competitions were being decided. As Lars Christer Olsen has said, our chairman, today has, I said, started to mark the new way forward. And we also have to change the ways of governing the decisions made for European football. European football isn't the same as it was 10 years ago. Football industry is totally different. And the institutions have to adapt to how important the football industry is on an economic level in each country. And we do need new governance. And the leagues should participate more because, as we say, in most of the countries, in all of the companies, the national, the domestic leagues are the most important competitions. And so I think that is possibly the most important message. So any decisions can't be made if the leagues do not agree. We need to participate. I think all these important decisions should be done in collaboration with the leagues. No decisions that affect the domestic leagues shouldn't be taken without us. The domestic leagues need to be involved. And I think that is the message that we would like to give today from La Liga here in Spain.
Thank you, Javier. I know that also Georg Pangel, the General Secretary of the European Leagues, want to make a couple of comments. Please, Georg.
Thank you. In addition to the two presidents, I would like to say that this was an important information session for the clubs. We have many clubs from all over Europe with a different level of background information. There were 244 clubs present. We have more than 1,200 clubs in Europe, and you know that it's just 109 member clubs at ECA. So there's a need for the rest of the clubs, which are more than 1,000. We are representing via the leagues 990 clubs, so it was very good to give them this update. For example, and I like just always to mention this example with the revenue sharing, which is out of this 850 million plus, which has been generated by UEFA, it's 80% being distributed to the 32 Champions League clubs, and just 10 million for 700 clubs on solidarity basis. And this is our approach. And I would like especially to thank Javier Tebas and his team for the organization. Without La Liga, we wouldn't have been able to make it, as President Olsen said. So Javier is a fighter for the small ones, and we need such support at European level to achieve exactly this competitive balance. So there was a very good energy during the meeting. It is time to act now. And the clubs told us, they really were very clear with some statements that there is a governing topic in European football. That means when it comes to representation, for example, like in the UEFA Club Competition Committee, there are 13 club representatives and one from European leagues. This we have got confirmed by the clubs that the decision-making process has to be revised. And we are going to meet now concretely very soon our leagues, our clubs via the leagues to cooperate for a better cooperation together for the future. So that's my part, and I would not to forget to mention that we had the fan supporters with us from Supporters Direct Europe and from Football Supporters Europe. We are going really to plan to work together. I'm a football romantic, and I like always to say that without fans, the whole industry wouldn't work. So that's why we are really looking forward to work closely together with the fan organizations in Europe, and this we are planning to do very soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Georg. It's now the time to open the floor for a session of question and answer. I would kindly ask you please to raise your hands, please, your name and the media organization you work for. Por preguntas en español, por favor, levantar la mano, vuestro nombre y vuestro medio.
Buenas tardes. Quería hacer una pregunta para Javier.
I have a question for Javier Tebas. I'm Diego Torres from El País newspaper. We are seeing a phenomena that could probably be applied to all leagues, except the English one where there is no VAR. In Spain, the Getafe is qualified for the Champions. In Italy, Atlanta is ahead of Milan. So these are interesting things. Do you believe that the ECA, the clubs who are trying to organize this new model, are they worried about the situation? Are they pleased about all this issue? And this could affect the qualifications for the European leagues. Well, more than just being involving the large clubs, I think there are 3 members who have voting rights, as we say, on the latest rules. It seems that they want to ensure a position in European competitions. So I think they have certain respect for the fact that a different type of clubs are coming into the competitions. Well, Spain compared to other leagues, should we say, our league winner is going to have less points than others. I think in the Premier League, the top club's going to have 98, and our top club will not be above 90 or even 80. So this is a phenomenon that's good. It means that everyone's competing, but the decisions that are being made, and also, as we say, the promotion and relegation for European mention, I think it means that some clubs have to we're closed off to these European clubs. So that it has financial implications which are relevant, because obviously people have to play at the weekend, and obviously if the first division is going to have 18 teams instead of 20 teams, that's really going to affect it. Well, Javier, I'm from the Cadena SER. I would like to know, as you, as the chairman of La Liga, when you speak to the other leagues, do they ask you a lot about the Real Madrid's position, which it seems to one of the teams that is interested in changing the current model? And independent of that, what about the future champions, as in after the 2024? They said there's a possibility that the big clubs in Europe are not going to be part of UEFA or ECA, and they're going to have their own war, and there will be like a closed competitions, and they will look for supposedly high revenues. Well, this is a very widely known question. I always say the same. They haven't said it officially, but we have read it in certain newspapers and certain journalists say. And as we know, the position of Real Madrid is public and it's well known. So are they going to carry out their own battle? Well, that's up to them. I don't believe it, and I don't think that will be very possible. And I don't believe it because today the big clubs, the Spanish and European clubs, they depend financially on their domestic leagues. So if they're not part of the European football organization chart, I think that would have important repercussions on the domestic leagues. So I think they will only dare to do that when they're sure that economically the other competitions give them sufficient revenue. Another thing is that they're working to see that the leagues become weaker, should we say. Sometimes that's the feeling we get. But I don't think that's actually going to happen. I think it's a shame that these sort of comments are made. I would like to ask you what tools exist, because lots of clubs have said if this competition comes off, it will be a big war for European football. So what tools do you have to make sure the big clubs remain? Because obviously the modest, medium-sized companies, well, they're obviously going to remain. What will you do to try and retain the top clubs in your leagues? Well, from La Liga, we have there's three aspects. There's the legal side, because the Spanish Liga, we've been studying the creation of this sort of competitions. We've been studying that legally from La Liga. There's also political times. Obviously, in the European Union, they know the specific nature of sports, so we would have to see how each country can deal with this. Italy and France has a political concern about this and this situation, and that would be the same for Spain. And of course, we have the decision of the clubs themselves. The clubs, as I say, not a lot of European clubs are in favor of that. Today, I think the scenario for this battle is not on the short term. As I say, tomorrow we're going to start our conversations with the UEFA, and let's see what happens. But as far as the Spanish La Liga is concerned, we think everything should be done by agreement. And if everything's done by agreement, well, we will accept them.
I think from European perspective, I think if we're talking on behalf of the other big leagues, for example, the Premier League has made a joint statement where all the 20 member clubs have said that they would like to safeguard the Premier League. And this is exactly as Mr. Tebas is saying, that the backbone for the sporting success and for the financial income for the clubs are the domestic leagues. And I think if it's not totally different to the discussion which took place with the G14 in the late 90s and early 2000, where they were also threatening of doing a breakaway. The problem now is that the discussions are taking place between the clubs and UEFA, and that would mean a closed league, perhaps, if we should follow the proposal from ECA, under the umbrella of UEFA. And that will be a more difficult situation than it was in the late 90s, because when they were threatening UEFA and FIFA and the domestic leagues by doing a breakaway, there was a very simple answer: yes, if you would like to, it's your decision. But it means that the clubs are not participating in the domestic leagues, and it means that the players are not playing in the national teams. So that took the steam out of the initiatives at that time. And the different thing now, where if it's going to happen, it's going to happen under the umbrella of the governing body of European football, which makes it more complicated. And that is why we have to be firm, and I think we got that confirmation from our clubs today, that we have to work for a different development or different future of the European competitions, which are still keeping the connection to the domestic leagues. So it's a different story in that respect, and more serious one.
Okay. Buenas tardes.
This is for Mr. Tebas. I think Andrea Agnelli has been here last week. He wrote a letter to all the clubs saying that they shouldn't come here today to Madrid. So I don't understand why he came. Did he come just to listen or to take notes? And also I would like to know with tomorrow, how are you going to the UEFA meeting? And why do you think if the 16 organise themselves as what was seen, in the WikiLeaks, how do you know they're not going to set up their own league? Andrea Agnelli has come as the president of the Juventus, and so therefore he was invited because he is a president or a chair of a club. The letter he sent out to tell the clubs not to come, well, obviously it wasn't very successful because all the clubs have turned up. So therefore I think that answers your question. Well, let's see what happens anyway with regard to the other clubs. We have to think in the financial structure of the clubs, because from one day, for over and out, these 16 clubs say they are going to play in a different league because obviously they can't, because obviously it's not so easy for these 16 clubs to leave their domestic leagues, because obviously they have enormous, we give them 900 million in TV rights and everything. So I think it's very difficult for them to just leave because they get money in from their TV rights. So at the moment, it's complicated times for football. A lot of people say very extraordinary things. It's not very easy for 16 clubs to overnight develop their own competition. But maybe gradually they can talk to the UEFA and try to get the money to be deviated to other competitions. But I really don't think that I think this is more a bluff. Nacho Andres for the Sexta TV channel. I would like to ask you, Mr. President, what is the situation for La Liga if in August 2024 the competition starts? Well, we've got plenty of time between now and the 2024. I don't think it's going to start. But anyway, it would be very complicated. That's true. The real situation is it would be complicated because of the project that we're talking about for a league with 18 clubs. So we've got to go down from 20 to 18, and they are also the European competition is going to be played at the weekends. And there'd be closed access to the European competitions. Well, we have drafting reports. We've got one done by KPMG. And it says that for Spain means the value of the clubs will go down. It would go down by 45%, and the revenues would have 880 million less in revenues per season. And that isn't a report that's been drafted by La Liga. It's been drafted by KPMG. And when we have it ready, we will present it to you. And so I think it will affect the entire industry. This is Anthony from Spanish television. I wanted to ask you because in the communique that the Premier League has issued signed by the clubs, do you believe the fact that there's not unanimity in opinion in the Spanish league? This means that the position of the Spanish league is weakened in face of the UEFA? No, it's not a majority opinion. This issue, it's difficult to just accept this agreement with the Real Madrid. What it shows is that our league for many years now is financially strong. None of the clubs have financial problems. So we have important decision-making capacities without always having to take into account the top clubs. I think on the contrary, La Liga is a competition and a group of 42 clubs. I think the Liga is very strong, and I really don't think this Real Madrid situation weakens us. Yes, Rafael Fernandez for Onda Cero. I would like to ask you, what has been the position of Mr. Agnelli today? Has he had an active position? Did he come just to listen? Did he offer a concession? What exactly was his position in the meeting today?
He was grateful to being invited, but as Mr. Tebas said, he is of course invited because he's the president of our member clubs. I think he had the position that the proposal from ECA was just an idea for a concept, and he was saying that everything is open for discussions and for decisions in the future. This is in the beginning of the process, and it should not be seen as the final proposal for the future. And there was also Edwin van der Sar together with him, and they made their comments from ECA. I think I have to say that they were polite, and they didn't have too many they didn't talk about new proposals or anything. They didn't really make a promotion for their proposal. And I should say it is also important to take a note that they did not deny anything of what the things we were presenting, because we were presenting the development of the European club competitions, since '92 actually, but also especially over the last 10 years. So he was not at all aggressive, I should say, and speaking in a nice tone.
Well, also we'd have to highlight there are a lot of ECA club members present, around 80 clubs that belong to the ECA. They attended the meeting, but the majority, not all of them, but the majority do not agree with the line that the ECA itself is going along.
Aquí Jesús Poveda.
Jesús Poveda, Radio Marca, for Javier Tebas. I wanted to ask you, Javier, what has been the position that everyone knows, apparently, from the representative of Real Madrid, who has attended this meeting? Did he say anything public? And what was his position? No, he didn't come after he received Agnelli's letter. So the Real Madrid didn't come after they received that letter.
AFP, Javier, you've said that you've looked into legal possibilities. If UEFA do push forward with this proposal, is legal action something you would strongly consider? And based on the research that you've done, are you confident that legal procedure would be successful?
Aquí hablo en nombre de la Liga Española.
I'm talking in the name of La Liga in Spain. We've been analysing the legal issues related to new European competitions, and we've been analysing that for 3 seasons now. Why? Because the risk of what's been talked about, well, we thought that something like this might happen. Obviously, we're looking about the competition area, and we're looking in Brussels, Switzerland, and as I say, from the information that we have, it said that these sort of court cases, well, they could prosper.
The last question, if any. No more question. So I then close the press conference. Thanks everybody for attending. For your information, an official media release and statement will be released within the next hour in English by the European leagues and of course in its Spanish version by La Liga. Thank you very much, and we will always keep in touch. Thank you. Bye-bye.